very least introduce people to the idea that you're going to be doing a crowdfunding campaign for it.
No, don't do it just yet. I need to, although I've got the conditional acceptance, I need to make sure that these documents that they're asking for, I get them in on time. And I know it's tomorrow, but we can wait. I'm in a position where we can wait at the minute. This is happening fast, and it's like, I've got to make sure that I am on the course and I actually start doing it.
Okay.
Because they don't want the money for the first month. So I've got a month to sort it out, and I don't need to do it immediately, and I don't want to say anything publicly about it just yet, just in case for whatever reason it falls through. But I found out the fees are 2,050, so 2,000 for the course. But what my plan is at the end is for everybody that donates above, say, 20 quid, I'll give them an electronic copy of the submission so that they can read it themselves. And then at the end of it, once it's been published and it comes back out the other side, then that's copyrighted material. Then it'll be copyrighted as mine. So I'll do a copy of it for myself, post it back to myself, and keep the copyright as myself. And then I think I might actually publish it as a book, because I reckon I could argue successfully that Tim Peake probably would be legally responsible for his deception if he was to go into teaching, because he would be caught by English law. There's enough evidence to show the ISS is bullshit. There's enough evidence to show that NASA employees usually end up in the education system indoctrinating people. And it would be a massive ISS destruction dissertation where a lot of the evidence for why we're not being told the truth would come out. But I just can't use the words flat earth in it anywhere. I'd have to make sure that phrase isn't in it. But I would argue it from a critical position, a critical dissemination of the national curriculum with regard to teachers, governors, the state, and anybody else that gets involved in teaching, because I just think it'd be fucking ace.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you've got my full support, and I'll like with Ranty's camera, I'll run a proper campaign so that you can actually raise the money to do so.
Do you reckon 2,050 is enough? Do you think it's too high? I mean, it's a lot of money to ask.
What it costs?
Yeah, that is what it costs, but is it too high? Do you reckon we could promote it in such a way? That depends on the
rules. It depends on the GoFundMe rules. So if you don't reach your target, if that means you won't get the money, and you think that you can't raise that much money, then no, you set the target lower. But that's something we can discuss over the next month in terms of how we'll press forward with a campaign to market the idea. Excuse me.
I think we're going to need help in probably. Who else could we do? Because I don't know whether... See, 2,000's a lot, and if you get 200 viewers, let's just say everyone put 10 quid in, and they wouldn't, but let's say they did, then that would be the money. But I wouldn't get 10 quid off everyone when most of them are just trolls.
Don't worry about that. But I can concern myself with that.
What other angles do you think there might be in terms of this? Because I'm going to be looking at the crime of teaching people false prophecy, right? False teachings. Whatever that crime is going to be basically teaching us lies. Is the ISS astronauts the right people to go after in terms of personal liability? Or do you think there might be other people that might be responsible, like the state itself, like the state of the Department for Education, for example? Do you think they could be liable for a bit more on the bigger picture, teaching us that water conforms to the exterior of a shape?
I think that's part of the writing is going to be exactly that, exploring the liability aspect of it. Who is actually liable? That would be part of what you wrote about, presumably. Anyway, I'm starting in 30 seconds.
Well, we're going to have a sit down and brainstorm the structure of it.
Indeed.
I reckon you'd be interested. I reckon you'd enjoy going through it in terms of critically doing it. But go on, you start.
Okie dokie. Starting, hun. No, just to let you know. Check.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. Good to have you.
It was late today, the link. Nobody's out of bed yet, it seems.
Really? It's the usual time. Same time as Only Day.
I know, but you didn't send the link out until 9 minutes ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I was restarting the PC. There's a slight glitch with the Hangout, so hopefully it won't cause a problem. And I just restarted a couple of times to see if I could solve it, but I haven't. So I wasn't going to mention it, but that is the reason why I got the link out late. Hey, Arwin.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Here he is. Shh, he's here. Shh.
Good evening. What?
We weren't talking about you.
No, we weren't.
I know. I was listening.
Okay. At least you muted your watch page when you joined. You got that bit down pegged.
No, I wasn't. Yeah.
So what do you know?
What do I know?
Yeah.
What do you know?
I know that I know very little.
Yeah, that's quite true.
That's a
And
good
you can
answer.
prove even less.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Intelligent answer.
I agree. Okay, let's get through housekeeping.
Okay. Any signs of curve? Earth
No.
curve?
No sign of curve whatsoever. Any obstructions curvature is not an acceptable answer to prove the shape of the Earth.
Nope.
Any signs of axial rotation? Again, of the Earth-based variety.
No.
Definitely not.
Any signs of a gas pressure without a container?
No, that would defy the third law on second law of thermodynamics, that entropy would prevail. Don't be silly.
Never.
Arwin? No?
No, never.
I mean, to give the clarity that it may require, because we'll get into a habit of just asking that question without any validity to it, so I'll clarify why we asked that question. So, gas pressure without a container. According to people who think they live on a sphere, or have a space religion, however you want to phrase it, they think we have this area called space. Now, Earth, this tiny little insignificant dot. Hey, Travis. This tiny little dot has got a gas pressure. Now, that gas pressure is simultaneously in a vacuum. So Earth, this tiny dot, is in a vast, vast vacuum, but we have gas pressure without any barrier. So our question is, how is that possible? The answer being, it isn't. It defies the second law of thermodynamics. So when somebody who thinks they have a ball beneath their feet, the people with a space religion, we would ask them, should they assert anything to do with space, rockets, satellites, you name it, we would ask, how are we breathing this gas pressure if Earth is a sphere in space and space is a vacuum? In other words, the concise version, how do you have gas pressure without a container? The answer is you can't. It defies the second law of thermodynamics. Moving on, is there any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yes.
Yes, yes and no?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, at the presupposed Earth. In reality, no.
Okay,
The
so you're saying you can
presupposed
find
spherical.
evidence that people presuppose the spherical Earth and that they put a molten iron core at the centre of the presupposed spherical Earth.
Let's just say once they have found evidence of R, then they're going to be very likely to find the evidence for the molten iron core as well, right after that.
Right.
Yeah, so the answer to the question, therefore,
Their
would be
dreams.
no.
But it's worth giving clarity, so I don't mind it each time Arwin does it, because it explains to people what we're talking about in kind of saying, well, yes, we accept that people will presuppose we're on a sphere, and people will then presuppose that there's a molten iron core. People will then correct you and say the presupposition of a sphere Earth with a presupposition of a molten core isn't actually molten and right at the centre. You feel like slapping them. Really? Oh, have you been there to check it's solid, as it's now asserted? No, of course not. We are told Earth is a sphere, and we are told it has a molten iron core. So, is there any evidence of it? No. No. We move on to the distance to the sun?
There is none.
There is no distance to the sun.
Oh, that's a shame. You're telling me we can't just presuppose we're on a sphere and then measure a few angles and guess how big the thing we're looking at is, based on how big we think the Earth is? No?
No. Ruhif did a response video recently, and in his video he used ratios to do it. And the ratios, basically, he very quickly spewed in his last 30 seconds that if you know the angular size of the sun, then it all makes sense. But he said it that fast that if you weren't paying attention, you would literally miss it. And when I pointed that out to him, he hasn't responded yet. So shout out to Ruhif, Arwin. Make sure you do your bit afterwards for assuming the size of the sun for the distance.
Shout out retracted?
Indeed.
Right.
Excellent. What about Sam?
Yeah, I thought it's kind of funny how the distances to planets and everything, how that has been extrapolated from angular positions, because that is all we really know about the heavenly bodies, is their angular positions in relation to the position of the Earth. And then they basically put that in a model, and then from that data they can size up everything in according to their 3D model surrounding the globe with the heavens and make it kind of work out. It's a big puzzle.
Shout out to Caroline.
What about scientific evidence of gravity? Got any of that?
No.
Working on it.
Nope.
Travis? Anything?
I got
I think
directional pressure.
Crash, crash, bang, as he tries to fumble with the phone while struck in.
Probably
Well,
falling
if that
asleep.
happens, you'll just hang up. Anyway.
Yeah, be sure to mute if you do end up in a car accident.
Yeah. The sirens get irritating.
Yeah, sirens and alarms and your head crushed against the steering wheel, things like that. Right, okay. What about the presupposition itself? Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius, gentlemen?
No.
No. The only thing that they can calculate is the path of the sun. That's it. They don't get a third dimension to the radius. They just get a 2D dimension to the sun's radius as the path flies over Earth. But then some bloke with some sticks basically deduced that it was a ball, and that's about it.
Yep. So spherical reasoning.
Would you like to lead the blessing, Arwin, to conclude the housekeeping?
Yes. All right. Radio Sanctus Gravitas Dominus.
Spiritus
Amen.
Sanctus Arwin. Go in peace, in our you trust.
Indeed.
I like taking the Mickey out of religitard baltards.
Travis, are you there? Are you alive? No? I guess
Using
he's
a
not.
phone call or something.
Yeah, because he put a video up about his harvest moon, and
Good video.
he had his P900 set up over the horizon, and although we had mountains in the background, it was probably his best angle. But again, the harvest moon was massive as it rose over the horizon, and it's like, what's the explanation for that? And I have found a video that gives the explanation better than any other video that I've heard. What, as far as you guys are aware, is the explanation on the heliocentric model?
It's the analemma, right?
Yeah, it's to do with the ecliptical path of the moon combining with the tilt of the Earth. At this time of the year, the tilt is going against the ecliptic path of the moon, and the effect of it is that I'll have to show you on the animation. Give me a minute, I'll find the animation. It's you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, an animation's worth 10,000 words.
Hello?
think I've probably got that term wrong.
There.
Take your time, Anthony.
Hello?
Hello, is it Wes? Good to have you. Got a hello, then nothing else.
Wes?
Hello.
Come on, Wes, you need to say more than hello.
Can you hear me?
We hear you. How are you doing?
Can you hear us?
Good. Sorry, I'm on a new headset and it's Bluetooth and I think it's not working right.
No worries. If you can hear us, I'm going to just pop you on mute while you figure out your Bluetooth headset. If you can't hear us, you won't have the vaguest clue why we won't be able to hear you when you figure it all out. Oh, he's gone. No worries. We won't bother with that then.
Probably restarting.
Need some elevator music while Anthony digs out his screen share.
I've got it. I was just waiting for Wes.
So just to recap, so this is the path of the moon as it gets closer and further away, right?
It's it's caused by the ecliptic path of the moon in conjunction with the tilt of the Earth at the same time. So what this basically shows, and I'll have to slow this right down because it happens really quick and it's like sleight of hand. If you don't pay attention to it, you'll not get it. But what it says is the moon rises roughly an hour later each day. So moon rises, say 5 p.m., then it's 6 p.m., then it's 7 p.m. for every day that it rises. And what it's saying is that with relative to the tilt of the Earth and the ecliptic plane of the moon, at one part of the this relationship, that's the angle that the moon rises. But as the ecliptic plane and the tilt of the Earth relate with each other, it changes over the month and then over the year based on the tilt. And what it shows, hopefully, is maybe it's going a bit too slow. Over the path of the ecliptic tilt and the tilt of the Earth, it effectively means that the angle that the moon rises over the horizon changes, and that's part of the reason for why it looks so big, which doesn't make sense to me because it shouldn't make it look any bigger. But they say that it spends more time in this layer of the densest air in the atmosphere. So because it's spending more time in the densest layer of the atmosphere, it distorts all hell out of it. But then it says that it's an illusion and it's actually the same size that it normally is. And it isn't. It just isn't. The moon is not the normal size of the harvest moon when it peeps over the horizon. But they say it's the combination. I mean, obviously we can't validate or verify this to be true, but that's the explanation. It's the overlap of the ecliptic plane of the moon rising with the tilt of the Earth at the same time.
So, but the problem is that it's a cyclical annual event.
Yeah,
So
I mean every full moon, because we're at full, the sun is right behind us, so we're looking at the full moon, and the sun would have set right behind us. So it's the opposite phase to when it's at new moon. But every full moon, you get it every 27.3 days.
No, but I guess what I'm talking about, I'm talking more about the harvest moon. You're just talking about the full moon. I thought you were talking about the harvest moon.
Yeah, I was talking about the harvest moon. This does happen the harvest moon denotes this cycle. So in this cycle, this time of the year, we're at full moon, at harvest moon. But you have all the moons, all the other moons get different. All the other full moons get given different names as well for every month because it's a cyclical event, as you say.
Hey,
but
Wes,
depending on what.
can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ah, cool. Also,
Sorry about that
hello
earlier.
to just say a couple of hellos. Sorry to interrupt you, Anthony. Hello, Event Horizon, and hello, Stopping Traffic in my Rasta hat.
Yeah.
Good to have you, Rasta. We'll get a quick hello out of Event
Thanks.
Horizon.
Good show.
Stuff, guys.
Can you hear us, Event?
Can you guys hear me?
We hear you, Chocolate. Hello. Oh, I think.
Yeah. So Anthony, the thing for me though is that if we're on a sphere, the atmosphere isn't isn't delineated in any other way than spherical. So it doesn't make sense to me to say, well, at this point in the year, you hit the most densest part of the atmosphere. No, it's the same atmosphere everywhere you go around the globe.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And not only that, but I've seen large non-harvest moons. I've seen large moons come over the horizon when it wasn't harvest moon.
Me too, and I tried to just get that across when I was talking to Anthony after I was doing my live stream, which was, yes, it was bigger, but it just wasn't that impressive on account of the fact I've seen far bigger, far more colourful moons at different times of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when I saw my harvest moon, it was the biggest moon I'd ever seen in my life, and it looked like it was like apocalyptic. It was that big for me.
This was
it
last
made
year.
me wonder whether it was a regional thing that I had, whether I saw it differently, or whether it was a perceptory thing that I had that was different to everybody else. But
no, this is last year, right? This is last year's harvest moon, right?
No, it wasn't last year. It wasn't the year before. It was the year before that. So what we now? 1876, 2015 was when I first saw it.
Okay, I can't remember that far back, but yeah, there's some of the harvest moons I've seen. Agreed, are much bigger and more impressive than the one we had this year. Yes, it was bigger, and that was big shout out to you actually, Travis. Your video was so much better than mine, and you had obviously the B900 footage to back it up, which just was the icing on the cake, really. But you did a much better job than I did.
Yeah, I shot last night too. It was still huge and orange, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, when you look into the explanations for the colour and the size, they say that on one hand, they say that it's the lunar illusion. It's an optical illusion based on the horizon fixtures that make it look bigger. When you don't have the horizon fixtures there, you don't have that perception of size. But that's nonsense, because it's contradicted by the explanation for why it is bigger, by saying it's to do with being in the thickest layer of the atmosphere for longer. So on the one hand, they say it's an illusion, but on the other hand, they say, well, it's like, well, you can't really have it both ways. It's like it's either an illusion and it's the same size, and it hasn't changed size, or it does change size and it should do it every single time.
Hey, Riley, me and Travis are here on the West Coast right now, and in the United States, and the thing is, like, when it's going through that big to, like, reduction, like, phasing for where you're at geographically, when it's going into that, like, far side of, like, you know, like late night, early morning for you, the moon's just coming, like, you know, in for us, so to speak. So when it's going, you know, into that shrinking part that you're referring to, for, you know, us over here, it's technically going to be like entering that massive increasing size. Do you know what I'm saying? And so correct. That aspect has to be taken into consideration, because as it's seeming to get smaller from where you're at, it's going to be in that, you know, visual larger, you know, stage if you're further west, you know.
Here we go.
Jazz? There is no size to the moon.
Hey, Jazz.
Ronkakonda.
G'day and hi.
How drunk are you?
Yeah, that's the question I wanted to ask.
No, I'm sober as a nun, so let's get into it.
You're gonna have to put a breathalyzer on your phone.
Yeah, I don't believe that already. You couldn't even get that first sentence out. I'm as sober as yeah.
Sober as a judge.
Okay, well let's get into it. Ask me a question.
Do you know the distance to the sun?
93 million miles. Oh, you're going to ban me for that, are you?
No, I just want to know how you know it's 93 million miles.
Well, I don't know it's 93 million miles, but how do you know? Whereabouts do you live here in the UK somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know that it's 30 miles to the town that they say it's 30 miles to?
Because we can measure
Why are you? It's a red herring, Jazz. We're asking you about your model, okay? Don't come back at us with...
Actually,
no.
It's a straw man.
No.
A straw man.
It's not a straw man. Yeah,
of course it is. It's not the question I asked.
So your whole basis of what you are trying to say is because you can't measure it yourself means that it's wrong. That's what you just said.
Because science hasn't measured it. because I can't find the science for how it was measured. I've looked for it and looked for it and looked for it, and I've appealed to authority by asking, quote, Simon Dan, and all I got back from him was radar. And I already knew that was the story, but I didn't see any science from him. So I was wondering why.
Well, so do you think that air traffic control doesn't work?
I think that nobody's measured the distance to the sun, Jazz. I've been really clear on it. I don't know who's done it, how they've done it, or when. But there doesn't appear to be a measurement of the distance to the sun. The relation based on relative distances created from and as a result of Kepler's third law on interplanetary motion. However, there is a transition from where that relative ratio becomes an actual distance. And I don't know where it comes from, and I haven't seen any proof or credible proof that, or even credible evidence that that is the case.
Yeah, but what we're talking about here is we're talking about traveling between two different destinations. Have you ever? I've never traveled around the world. Do you know anyone that's traveled between the UK and the US?
Jazz. This has nothing to do.
Me.
This has nothing to do with the measurement of the sun, Jazz.
Me. I've
no, it does.
All over the world, Jazz.
It does. We're talking about we're talking about the measurement from the Earth to the sun. So we're talking about distances.
So So the distance from the Earth to the sun is not the distance from Albuquerque to Phoenix. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Of course, it's not the same.
Okay, so don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
But we're talking about distances.
Tell us how you know the distance from the Earth to the sun.
I don't want to. I'm not gonna. We're gonna have to beat around the bush with you guys because I don't want to tell you guys how I know because I don't know. But I don't want to tell you guys the reason why I have no reason to question it.
So what you're saying basically is you don't know the distance to the sun, but you don't have a reason to question what they tell you the distance to the sun is.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know the distance to the sun then?
I don't know personally because I haven't measured it, but who expects to measure it?
Well,
do you honestly think we should be able to measure it?
No, I think it shouldn't be asserted that it's 93 million miles away unless it's been measured.
So what you're saying is someone has had to go out and physically measure it?
No, we're saying nobody has gone out and physically measured it, yet it is asserted that it is 93 million miles away, based on a presupposition of an R value, and then assuming a distance to Venus based on the size of that presupposed spherical Earth. That's nonsense. Just say, I don't know, like you do, Jazz, because you're honest. But people don't say they don't know. They say it's 93 million miles away with no backing whatsoever.
I don't know.
Me neither.
Because I haven't paced it out.
Me neither. I've not paced out the distance to the sun either. So we're both in agreement. We don't know the distance to the sun.
Have you paced out the distance between Sydney and Buenos Aires?
But we could, if we could walk on water.
No, you can't.
Yeah, but my point is that we could measure it by some means. You could literally, if you had a long enough piece of string, physically drag it across that distance. Whereas you couldn't do that to a light in the sky, and nobody has done that to the light in the sky.
No, you couldn't do that.
What, to
even
the light
if
in the sky?
Flat.
To the light in the sky? Are you saying we can't measure the... Sorry, are you saying we can't measure the distance to the sun?
No, what I'm saying is there's a divide between what's going on here is that let's say half and half saying that you should be able to measure the distance between Sydney and Buenos Aires accurately.
That's just a red herring.
I'm saying it sounds like you're having a hard time keeping your liquor inside your gut and not coming up your neck.
Yeah, it's a false equivalency.
It's a real good excuse. You've got a picture of a Winger 737-800 on your photo frame there.
Event Horizon, you're causing feedback.
Yes, buddy.
Just turn your speakers right down. Turn your speakers on the laptop down if you would.
How's that?
Don't know if I talk and get feedback, then probably not good. No, that's perfect. Well done.
Well, I've muted him in the short term while he's
right, okay. Just as long as you're muted, it shouldn't be a problem.
How's that?
Good, hopefully.
Cool. The guy's making a false equivalency saying that we can measure from one town to another. We've got infrastructures and roads and these things are measured up. And he's trying to say, in that way, then we can measure to the sun. No, just because you can't go across water and measure from Australia to Buenos Aires, we have infrastructure, my friend. So,
but
the point is, we can measure the distance between cities, but how do we measure the distance to the sun? Right, Event Horizon, I'm going to have to mute you, dude, because for whatever reason, you're... So, I'll just say that again. We can measure the distance between two cities. We measure it, right?
We can.
Right, we measure it, though. We don't calculate it, we measure it. We know that it is a certain distance. But how do we get the distance to the sun?
So how do you measure the distance from London to New York?
No, but that's not the question. That's not the question.
How?
The question is,
With
how
a
do
big
you measure the
floating tape
distance?
measure?
Right, we've already had a concession from you, Jazz. We've already had a concession that you have not measured the distance to the sun, and you're happy to accept what they tell you. Now, if you're asserting that they, the people you trust, have measured it, just tell us how they measured it. Don't tell us that it's possible to measure between Sydney and London.
Hang on, Nathan. You just said a key word. The people you trust.
Yeah. Well, what's your point?
Who are the people you trust?
We don't. We say people assert that you have a distance to the sun, 93 million miles. However, that's not been measured. So we don't have to accept that value that's given to us by people on faith. You don't have to accept that.
You don't have to.
Well, you don't have to.
But that doesn't mean that the Earth's 3,000 miles away and however small.
3,000 miles away now.
Nobody made that assertion that the sun is 3,000 miles away. No one's making that assertion here. Did you hear anybody make that assertion?
Oh, I have before on other... Because if it's not 93 million miles away, then
let's just confirm that by asking the panel a quick housekeeping question. God. Any evidence of the distance to the sun, lads?
No.
Nope. Yeah, notice that the question is...
No, hold on. I'm waiting for Arwin. Specifically Arwin.
No. There is no distance to the sun.
No distance, you say, Arwin? So not 3,000 miles is being strawman to us here.
No.
No.
Yeah, it's not a physical thing that we assume we can triangulate. So some people may decide to triangulate it. Well, we would assert that that's fallacious, as you've got no idea what it is, where it is, how it works. Nothing. Literally nothing. So to claim that you can measure something is like me saying, I can tell you how big that rainbow is. No, I can't. Nonsense.
Yeah. And that's all fair enough, but sure, the Earth looks flat.
Because it is.
No.
Jazz, are you sure you've not been drinking?
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, sure, it looks flat.
Yes, because it is.
Right, but the question is, how do we know the distance to the sun? And part of you made the point that you can measure the distance between two cities, and I agree, we can measure it. But how do we get the distance to the sun if we can't measure the distance to the sun? We have to calculate it, right? Well, when we do that, we have to base it on some math that's... Pardon?
But we can calculate it with some accuracy using parallax.
Do you want to talk us through that one?
No, I don't know anything about it.
Well, let me just tell you that when you do that measurement, you will assume you are standing on a sphere. That's why the distances are so astronomical. Did you not realise that, Jazz? The R value will be utilised.
Well, that's parallax. It happens in your car on the way down the highway. If you
No. I understand. I understand what you're saying about the thing that you are looking at, and what I'm asserting is, when you make that measurement, you will assume first that you are stood upon a sphere. So, in R you trust with your 93 million miles.
I give it 10 minutes before Jazz vomits.
Yeah.
All right, start your stopwatch.
Let's see if we can't choke R down his throat.
Start the stopwatch.
So yeah, in R you trust when you give a vast distance to anything in the sky, because you will start with the presupposition that you are standing upon a sphere when you make those measurements. So you assume two things. One, that you're measuring something physical. Two, that you're standing upon a sphere. We don't know either of those things to be true, and have no evidence of either of those things being true. But people still just accept it on faith.
And that's very true. I couldn't agree with you more.
Excellent. Wow. What's going on?
You still believe it anyway, right?
Somebody drugged him with a strange drug. What's going on here?
No, don't start yet, because
Maybe he really did sober.
Oh, come on now.
I'd actually like to talk to you, Arwen, because you're in the Southern Hemisphere.
No, he's
I'm
not.
What, mate?
You're in
What makes-
Argentina, are you not? Are you in the Western
Wow.
Hemisphere or the Eastern
Wow.
Hemisphere?
No, I live in the Netherlands.
So, but just by doing
I think this should be
so
the comedy hour. This is
no,
the
no,
comedy
no.
hour.
This could be more smart than you think,
Yeah,
Travis.
fucking
So
nice. Let's do
we're
it.
setting the tone, though, aren't we? We're setting the tone by saying we're going to
No
talk in the
swearing.
context. We're going to talk in
Sorry.
the context of hemispheres right now, aren't we, Jazz? So before we've even started this conversation, the way you've led this, even though you're wrong and it got a laugh, well, I haven't ignored
course
the
I'm
fact
wrong.
that we're now talking about being in a hemisphere. So is the next conversation we're about to have going to begin with the presupposition that someone's in a hemisphere on a sphere? Is that where we're going
What?
next?
Oh no, I'd just like to begin with. Of course, I'm wrong.
Begin with what?
Of course, I'm
Vomit in
wrong.
8 minutes.
8 minutes counting. Keep going.
Got my eye on the vomit clock.
It's part of the affirming the consequent. The formal logical fallacy used in most instances is to beg the question and start with the supposition that you're on a sphere. So you would start by saying something like, if we measure from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere, or if we observe the lights that travel around above our heads in the northern hemisphere and then in the southern hemisphere, then you'll see blah 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 that proves that we're on a sphere. So in that instance, you're already on a sphere. You beg the question. So that's why I said, is that a ham-handed way of you getting us on the vein of being on a sphere with your next example?
No, I'm not trying to prove to you that we're on a sphere.
Why
Nathan.
not? That's what this debate is about. Specifically that.
No, because see, you guys have come with the predisposition that you guys are on a flat plane.
No, that's not a presupposition. So when we look at something in the distance, we don't have to make any excuses for why we see it, Jazz. So we see a building or a lighthouse or a boat and go, there's a boat, building or lighthouse. And then no explanation is required from our point of view. We don't need to believe things to say that. We see it because it's there. However, the converse is you guys on the sphere with a space religion and an R value that you believe in. And you say,
And
oh,
using
no,
terms and words vastly
no.
incorrectly.
So no, that
Okay.
building's not really there. That building isn't actually visible. There's actually a wall of Earth curve in the way. The reason you see it, because it's not really there, the reason you see it is because of a refractive value of 76R, which I'm going to arbitrarily apply to this presupposed sphere that we're on, that's blocking the view of this thing that we can see. That's what you have to say. Hello, Chuck Berry, Chris Berry. Chuck
Hey.
Berry? Hey, Chris. So yeah, that's the nonsense that you have to jump through. So you're saying I presuppose I'm on a sphere. No, I just see a concrete noun, a building, a boat. And that's it. No explanation required.
You were
No
just saying
presupposition
that,
in seeing something. Just see it. It's there.
that we.
What am I presupposing? You're asserting, Jazz, that to look at something and just go building, that I have to presuppose it's flat. No, just go building.
Okay, so I'm asserting that you think you're on a flat Earth, but you're asserting you think 7 billion people are on a globe Earth.
No, you didn't listen to a word I just said.
What?
You literally didn't listen to a word I just said, did you, Jazz?
I listened to every word intently.
I'll try and repeat it. Let's see if you can get it the second time around. If I see something in the far distance, as a flat earther, there's no belief or presupposition I just look at it and go, there's a building. In the same way I tried to explain this to the other dumbass who was on the other day, I've forgotten his name already, inconsequential. If I see my mouse next to me, there's my mouse. No belief required, no presupposition required about anything. I just see it because it's there. There's my mouse. Likewise, when I see a building very far away, there's a building. I see it. It's just there. Concrete noun. No science needed. No explanation needed. No presupposition needed. However, when you see a building, the first thing as a globehead you see is, what is your elevation? What is your distance to target? Let's have a little look at what the Holy R calculator says. Let's see if we should or shouldn't really see this thing. Well, hold on. Why are we deciding whether or not we should see it? We do see it. There it is. No. There's an R value that might tell us, or give us our religious assertion that we don't see this thing that we see. Because Earth curves in the way. Because R says so. And we do see it, and I've got an explanation for that too. Because my belief is very complicated. We don't see it. It's not really there. But we do see it because you've got a photograph of it. And that's because 7.6R. So not only are we not seeing it because of R, we are seeing it because of 7.6R. So there you go. That's what I presuppose, because I'm a retard globehead. Me, building. Literally one word.
Nathan.
Building. I can be a retard and understand the Earth is flat. I look at something and go, building. You look at it and go, no, we must explain this building because it's not really there.
Nathan.
That's me.
G'day and hi, how are you? Hey, just what you just said about perspective and about stuff not being there. You do realise
3 minutes on the vomit clock. 3 minutes on the vomit clock.
3 minutes on the vomit clock. 3 minutes on the vomit clock, or copy. 3 minutes on the vomit clock. You realise that if you put something on a flat plane, no matter what it is, due to perspective, it will never disappear. It will just get smaller and
Oh,
smaller.
really?
and
Why
smaller.
can't we see? Why can't we see America from England?
Diffraction.
Yes, it does.
Why can't we see America from England then?
Diffraction.
Sorry, we should have loads of stuff on the end of the horizon then.
So
No,
let's just ask Jazz a
don't even
question.
get into
Jazz,
it.
Jazz,
Don't even
Jazz.
Learn how diffraction
Jazz, just a quick
works.
question, just to clarify this. So, you know what a housefly is?
Mm-hmm.
How far away from a housefly do you think you can see it?
Not very far because it's frickin' tiny.
Oh, right. So, but you can see it when it's close to you.
Oh, are you referencing a housefly to the sun?
No, I'm not referencing it to anything, Dumbo. Just a housefly. You know what a housefly is, yes? Yes, Nathan,
Yeah,
I know
okay,
what a
I'm
housefly
looking
is.
forward
It's
to
a thing
this
with
example.
wings, insect, 6 legs. Yes, you know what a housefly is. So when it's in front
Yes.
of you, close,
Great.
near, you can see it, right?
Yep.
And when you get further away from it, you can't see it, right?
Yep.
So it disappears because of its angular size. It's too small to see, correct?
Okay.
So
Yep.
there's no equivalency in terms of whether or not we're looking at this housefly on a flat plane or a curved surface. It makes no difference. We get further away from it and it disappears because of its size, correct?
Yeah, well...
We're not there
carry
yet, Jazz.
on, but I'll give you
You're
an
dealing with
example
drunk,
when you
stupid
finish.
people. It takes time. You just got to be patient. Try. Next, after a housefly, you understand what a shoe is, correct? It's
Yep.
what you wear on your foot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you put the shoe in front of you and you can see it. It's in front of you, right, Jazz?
Yep, got
And
it.
as you back away from the shoe, can you always see it? Or does it eventually, like the fly, get too small to see?
Well, it depends. Is the shoe still on my foot, or
It's not... I can't walk away from the
Is it-
shoe I'm wearing.
is the shoe on the ground in the hallway and I'm back?
That's right. I take it off. That's right.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get you.
So it's too small to see once I back away far enough.
Once I'm a hell of a long way away.
Might be a very large distance. That's right. But eventually it'll get too small to see. Again, regardless of the shape it's sat on. It's just a small object we're going to get further away from. Like the fly. You got it with the fly. Why won't you get it with the shoe, Jazz?
Vomit time, vomit time.
I'm not sure you're following what you're saying.
It's the same as the fly, but a little bit bigger. So you might have to get further away. But eventually, when you get far enough away, it will disappear because it's too small, like the fly. Right, Jazz?
Yeah, but that doesn't prove anything.
Oh, doesn't it? You see, I'll eventually get there with you, Jazz. So, shoe. I've got to get this step confirmed, Jazz. So, is this a tick in the box or not? You understand that when you get far enough away from the shoe, it will be too small to see, like the fly, but just a bigger distance. You understand that?
Yeah, so you're pretty much confirming that the sun could be 93 million miles away.
No, try and keep on track, drunkard. We're not talking about the sun. A shoe. Remember, we took it off our foot and then walked away from it to get it to disappear through angular size reduction. I know I've used a few complicated words there for the audience who aren't as stupid as you.
Okay. I'll keep listening to you as long as you can just address what you
I need you to understand and confirm. So, do you understand that when we get far enough away from the shoe, you don't have to rumpus me. I'm talking about walking away from a shoe. This isn't complex.
Stupid, and that the people you have on the thing are brainy.
So, we've walked away from a fly and it's got small and we've lost it.
Not do that.
Can you not do this with a shoe? You can't just say yes, the shoe gets smaller.
Well,
or do you already know where I'm going? Do I have to shut you up? Do I have to shut you up and take the audience to the conclusion and cut you out of this equation, Jazz? Or are you going to cooperate?
7 billion people.
Shall I cut you out of this equation and just give the conclusion to the audience, Jazz? Because you're just rumpusing, rather than cooperating and just saying, yes, I understand that when I back away from a shoe, eventually it will get too small to see. You just have to confirm that so I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, no. Let's keep going.
Not yet, no, let's keep going. Yes, I understand that like the fly, I will back away from this slightly larger object further and it will also disappear like the housefly, Nathan. That's what I need to hear, Jazz, so I can move on.
Like the small object, I will believe that I will swipe at this fly and the large object will...
No, just a drunk wanker. So I'll conclude this for the audience. So we walk away from the shoe. And the shoe gets too small to see. Nothing to do with the flat plane and everything to do with its size at distance. Angular size at distance. So if we now scale that up, not to a shoe, but to a boat, something larger than us, we'd have to get further away from it for the angular size to eventually be too small to see, at which point we won't see it. It will disappear due to its angular size at distance. This effect will be worse the lower to the ground we are. However, sod all to do with Earth curve, but eventually we could scale it up to a whole continent and it would still, at distance, be too small to see, like the housefly. So on a flat plane it wouldn't be the case that we would see forever, as Jazz the drunk wanker asserted, and then couldn't keep up with the simplest of concepts. In actuality, the simple effect of perspective is what stops us seeing the USA from the United Kingdom, not because the Earth is a sphere.
Distance causes obstruction, not curvature.
Yeah,
Nathan, can you see the video that's playing on your actual fucking channel right now?
No swearing.
Stop
just
swearing.
You've been
and
demolished.
Stop talking over him while he's
Too
explaining.
stupid to understand the shoe is too small to see at distance.
Can you see the sun on your video right now?
What is this? What is that? What is the sun? What is it that we're looking at?
I don't know.
Me neither. Should we move on?
Is that because you're paranoid or...
Paranoid? No, I just know I don't know what it is.
You said me neither, so are you paranoid?
Yeah.
No, I'm not paranoid. That's
Then why are you asking Nathan if he's paranoid?
Stupid, drunk.
Well, I'm asking... I'll ask all you guys.
Are you paranoid, everyone?
Can you watch that?
Should we get a blanket response? We've got a group situation here.
Flat horizon. How can you actually watch that?
It's an optical phenomena. And it has an
it is. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty close to the...
It's like a rainbow. It's an optical phenomena. It has an angular position and it follows a clockwork exact pattern.
Oh, so you can represent that
Yeah,
on Earth?
yeah,
A light keeping the same relative size and disappearing half behind a horizon?
yeah. It's very
Okay,
simple. It
cool.
has no
I'll look
size.
forward to the
It has
video.
no size. It only has an apparent size, an angular optical size, just like a rainbow seems to be like it has a size, but it doesn't. Because
7.9
when you
billion.
move, it moves with you. So it only has an apparent size, just like the sun.
7.9 billion people look forward to your video. You'll make a shit ton of money on YouTube for
That's
proving
bullshit.
that you're full of shit.
That's bullshit. All of that was bullshit.
Prove it's bullshit. You've had 4 years.
Prove what's bullshit?
You've had 4 years to prove the Earth's flat.
Yeah, I've already
Prove
explained
it.
this to you. Did you not listen? So I see something very far in the distance and just say, building. Now, even a really stupid person can look at the same thing and go, building. No explanation, just they look at it and go, building, because they see it. Very simple.
No, Nathan, look at that sun. That's over land. You cannot go to an ocean and see the sun go below the horizon and say that that's flat.
Sorry,
Yeah,
what's the
Ken.
sun again? What's the sun? What are we looking at?
Of course you can.
Sorry, what
but
are we
you're
looking
gonna
at
look
again?
fucking mental doing
What
it.
is it
Yeah,
that's
I
doing
can't
this?
see it go below the horizon and see it's flat. It's ridiculous. Why do you keep asserting such a ridiculous statement?
We don't know what it
I think
is.
it's-
So we're talking about things that we do know what they are, tangible things like buildings. So I see a building in the
keep
distance. You've
saying
asserted
perspective.
you're going to rumpus me.
If
You're going to
anything's
rumpus me.
done
I've said I've got no.
correctly,
You've said I've got no proof. When I give it to you, you don't want to hear it. That's your problem, zealot. When you hear
No,
something that's
that's your
contrary to
problem.
your religious belief, you want to talk all over everybody because you want everyone to have your religious belief, don't you, Jazz?
No, I don't need to have
Well, then shut
everyone
up.
have my
Shut your
religious
stupid
belief.
mouth and listen for the third time to something that contradicts your belief.
You just
You're
told
going to
me
listen
shut
to it?
my stupid mouth.
You're going to listen
so
to it? Or are you just going to
Six
constantly talk
fans
over me
could
while I tell
listen to
you
you
something
go.
that doesn't conform
Oh,
with your
Nathan's
belief?
autograph.
Is this what you're
There
going to
you
do, religious zealot? Yeah? Just talk all over me. I'll shut you up. And I'll just tell the audience and cut you out of this equation, stupid asshole. So, I'll say it again. We look at a building and just see it. As a flat earther, I have no explanation or presupposition required to look at a bloody building and go, building. There it is. Very long way away. Building. Simple. Concrete noun. No explanation required. Because I see the obvious and observable. There it is. It's a building. It's there. Why? Well, because it's there. Well, what I don't need to do is presuppose that I'm on a sphere with a R value that there's no proof of, and then also assume that that R value means I can't see the thing that I can see. That's nonsense. That's what you do. You say you can't see this building, there's a curve in the way, because you're a religious zealot. When anybody contravenes your belief about there being a wall in front of something that we can see, that's when you start rumpusing and talking over, because you don't like things that contravene your religious faith, that we are on a sphere. We're not. There's a building, we see it. Well, your answer to that is we don't see it. It's a slightly looming non-standard refraction effect of the building behind the curve being lifted at, well, what do you know, terrestrial refraction 76R being brought back from behind the curve. So it's not really there. That's the kind of shit you have to assert because you have a religious belief in a space ball that you think you live on. I don't have that religious belief. I have no presuppositions when I see a building. You don't have to like it, Jazz. You don't even have to listen to it. I can assert it over the top of your nonsense.
I am listening to it.
Oh, really? So when you see a building that's there, do you just accept that you see it? That it's there and you can see it and take a photograph of it? Do you accept that? Or do you think that it needs
No,
explanation?
I understand how it shit works.
What do you mean it should work? There's no explanation
No,
required. When I see a building, Jazz, I'll say it again a third time. I don't need to know how anything works. I just see it. It's there.
You just see it. It's there. It looks flat. I understand that it's not.
So you're saying the buildings aren't there. They're actually blocked by a curve that you presuppose using a mathematical formula and an R value and a model that when modelled said it shouldn't be there, but then is brought back by a ray tracing program bending light at 7/6 of the presupposed radius that blocked it in the first place. That's what you're saying you understand when I just see something that's there. That's what you're saying.
No, Nathan, what I'm saying is... What I'm saying is, I see the big picture. You don't. You see, and I'm not trying to be offensive. What you see is what you interpret to understand.
No, I see a building. I don't need to interpret it. I don't need to figure it out. I just see it. And what is my explanation for that? Non-required. I see a building. End of explanation. For you, it needs explanation because it doesn't conform to your religious belief. Your belief in R. Your belief in a space religion with Earth in the middle of a vacuum. All of this shit is your religious belief. So when I see something, there it is. When you see something, no, it's not really there. It's being bent around a curved Earth with a value that we use with the curved Earth that we've already presupposed. That's what you think you understand. It's just your religious belief, Jazz.
No, it's not a religious belief. What you actually have is a religious belief. Because
the Earth's flat because it looks flat. That's also asserting that you know. You're making a claim by saying because it looks flat, it is flat. You're telling people it's flat. Making a claim which you now have the responsibility to prove.
And this is exactly what I was about to say.
No, he wasn't, Jazz. No, he wasn't.
No, this is what I'm exactly about to say, is that Nathan come back at me and said, oh, you can't make that area flat.
Those words didn't cross my lips. Those words didn't cross my lips.
What? We don't have to make anything flat. It is freaking flat.
Yeah, those words didn't cross my lips. I said, we see a building, and a thick person could summarise it in one word. Building. That's it. That's their explanation. Building.
I'm not sure Jazz could.
Yeah.
Jazz can't explain anything.
Doesn't mean that it is flat, does it? It just things can appear to be what they're not. That's
Can you turn your gain up a bit? Tommy, you're a bit quiet.
Listen to you guys bagging me. This is great. I love it. Keep going.
Jazz is clearly inebriated.
Very quiet, Tommy.
And Tommy's very quiet. Can we not kick Jazz and let's have an argument with Tommy over evolution? I'm sure Tommy's got more.
Oh no, have an argument with me first. I'd love to.
Sit down, Jazz. Sit down.
And
we're rounding out for a break in about 5 minutes
because it looks flat. So therefore, now you've got a responsibility to prove what you think. Just because something looks flat, now you've got to go out and prove it because you're telling people it's flat.
No, you're not listening either, Tommy. We're not saying look, it looks flat.
You are making a claim when you assume that because it looks flat, it is flat.
Sorry, not assume it looks flat.
It doesn't look flat.
Listen, let me just explain to Tommy.
It's there.
Exactly. We just see a building, Tommy. We don't say it's flat. We just say we see that building. Yeah?
You say, I believe the world's flat. I've heard you say
I'll say it again for Tommy. Tommy, I just see a building because it is there.
And that proves absolutely nothing.
It proves I see that building. It proves I see the building, Tommy. Sorry, it proves I see the building, Tommy.
Yes, and you assume it's flat.
No. There's no assumption. There's no assumption. If I see a building, I just see a building.
No, that's not. But you also are a flat earther. You believe that it's flat.
It has nothing to do with that.
Tommy, what part of this aren't you getting? Right? I'll give you the two versions of what happens when we see a building in the distance. I see the building and say building. And that is the end of my explanation because there's no explanation needed. It's a concrete noun.
Okay, cool. So therefore, we see a building. It could be curved. It could be flat.
Why? Why would it be? Hold on. I said I'd give you the two explanations. One, I see a building. That's the end of my explanation. No explanation required. It's a concrete noun. You're not going to let me get through half a sentence, you arrogant little prick. Shut your mouth and listen. Don't talk.
No.
That means shut up. Don't talk. Shut up.
Nathan.
No, Jazz, if you talk over me, I'll kick you out. You're no longer needed here. So I would keep your mouth shut at this point as well, Jazz.
You can kick me out because you're being an arrogant
Yeah,
The
I'll try again
digest.
for Tommy. Tommy, I just see a building and say building. No explanation required. No belief required. No presupposition required. It's a concrete noun. However, you see a building and go, we don't really see this building because Earth curve is blocking our view of the building. The fact that we do see the building is because light is bending back around a curve that we've got no proof of, we presuppose, at the rate of the curve, 7/6 of the curve, terrestrial refraction. So I presuppose something's blocking my view of something I see, and I also presuppose that light is bending back around that presupposed sphere at a rate of 7/6, the radius of that sphere, whilst simultaneously ignoring the effects of perspective and looking at this from a purely orthographic point of view, mathematically. That is what you have to do to see the building. So you don't really see it, it's not really there, it's blocked by Earth curve based on your religious faith in an R value and a model that says it's not there, even though you can actually see it. It's actually a hologram, it's actually a refractive effect. That's what you have to believe. That's quite a lot of stuff to assert about something I just see and say building. Okay, Tommy?
Okay. Well, you also have to say angular size reduction over long distances, and you also go for all this thing with the law of perspective. So you also are you're also having to use explanations. You don't just say something's there and it's there because you see it, because you also go through the things that you ran through with me. You're saying, well, what's the angular size reduction of the objects and what's the distance of the objects? You've also criticized people with them very words. So you're also asserting all these formulas, and it's not as simple as I see a building, as you put it.
Yeah, it is. See this on screen now? That's a lighthouse. It's very small because it suffered an angular size reduction at distance. But it's a lighthouse. I see it. It's there.
Well, it's good that you're paying attention to something, because you obviously don't pay attention to evidence. Because when you pretend,
Are you going to address the evidence that's on screen right now, Tommy? Or are you just going to ignore it and tell me how I don't pay attention to evidence? I'll say it again for the thicko that's known as Tommy. On screen right now, a building that is there. No further explanation required from me.
You ignore evidence, so you pay attention to what.
Tommy,
say it again. We're talking about evidence, and it's actually on screen, and you are ignoring it, and then projecting onto me that I'm ignoring something.
No, what you're doing is forcing me to engage.
You have said it's not as simple as seeing a building and saying it's there. So literally, as those words crossed your lips, a lighthouse was on screen, and I pointed out that there's a lighthouse, I see it because it's there, and you said no.
You're twisting the whole conversation.
Twisting it, it's evidence that you are ignoring, Tommy. It's called evidence, the thing you're accusing me of ignoring. You say your assertion with no evidence. It's not as simple as saying there's a building, it's just there. And on screen, as you said, it was a building that I used as an example to destroy your argument, Tommy, you stupid idiot.
What's my argument?
That it's not as simple as saying there's a building, it's just there. Those were the words that you used. That was your assertion. I demolished that, Tommy. I'm ripping you a new asshole right now, Tommy. I'm proving how foolish you are by backing up my assertions with the very evidence you claim I ignore, while you simultaneously segue away from that evidence and tell my audience that I ignore evidence. No, Tommy, there was a building on screen that I could say was just there, contrary to what you asserted. This is what having your arse handed you feels like, Tommy.
It's you mixing up what I'm saying.
Get louder, Tommy. Eat that mic. Eat that mic, Tommy. Eat it. Eat it. Get it right in your mouth, Tommy. Eat that mic. Show the audience with your distortion just how annoyed you are about my demolition of your argument, Tom. Eat your mic a bit more. Get it right in your mouth, Tommy. Get it right in your mouth and show my audience how annoyed this is. Go on, show them how annoying this is by eating your mic.
Well,
shout out to Nick.
Confirm my argument. The point that I'm trying to make, at least confirm it, so at least you know you're on the right track. Because
your point was that it's not as simple as saying there's a building, it's just there, and one was on screen while you were making that shit point.
Okay, you see a building, that's fine. But you.
Oh, that's fine now, is it? It was your assertion. It's not as simple as saying that. Now it's just fine, is it? You conceding that pathetically, are you, Tommy? You're wrong, son. This is what having your ass handed to you feels like. That was what a concession feels like. But I'm going to rub it in your face for a little bit, you little prick. You were wrong. It is just as simple when you're a flat earther to say building. Even if you're thick, you can just say building. And that's your explanation, done and dusted with. Your explanation as a religious zealot is my model says that there's a building blocked by Earth curve. That's what's actually occurring here. My model says so. My model says that the building's not really seen. We're only seeing it because light's being bent around the same value I used to build the model that says it's not there, even though we see it. That's what you have to say as a religious zealot. Even though you assert it's not as simple as saying there's a building, it's there. Like on screen now, Tommy. Right now, there's a clock. I see it because it's there. You're going to tell me it's not that simple?
He's been muted.
Don't mute
let me just remind people what Tommy said.
Don't mute
Tommy
people.
said that Nathan denied evidence. I'd like to know what evidence he denies that is an issue for Tommy.
And I want to know if he's gone away and figured out what scientific evidence is as well.
Probably not.
Don't just work.
I found a sweet video of the Earth.
So if you require an evidence on the other side, you also have to provide that yourself when you're refuting it. Yeah, all right, you can easily deny. You can be an evidence denier, which is what you are.
No, you've got that bit wrong. You've got that bit wrong. There's no requirement on us to make a counter allegation.
Oh, you showed me an embryo, or whatever it was, a fucking microorganism.
No need to swear, Tommy. That's the sign of somebody triggered. Somebody losing.
All right, I'm triggered. Okay, I'm triggered. You're winning. You're on your little boat. You're happy.
Don't be Tommy. It's okay. You've got a globe religion. You think I'm presupposing flatness?
You're strawmanning my argument. You're just trying to.
No, Tommy.
My argument. Yes, you are. You
not
do it all the
strawmanning
time.
anything.
You're trying to tell me what I'm trying to say.
Eat that, Mike. Eat it. Eat it.
You're showing globe withdrawal symptoms.
Yes, I'm showing globe withdrawal. What about the rest of you lot? All showing your sides? That you
well, we've gone through the globe withdrawal period. We've gone through the globe withdrawal.
I spent a week.
It takes a few months, and then you get to sleep normal again.
So
unless you're a glober, and then you become obsessed and start stalking flat earthers the rest of your life.
Hold on.
Constantly, I would, Tommy. Get your mic right in your mouth and talk constantly. That's the way to win. The way to win your argument, Tommy. Put your mic right in your mouth and talk constantly. That'll get you the winning argument.
No, put it in your mouth and keep stuttering.
You said you couldn't hear me, so I spoke up into the microphone.
Okay,
so making sure you can hear me clearly. If
you started stuttering into the microphone.
When Nathan starts talking loud, yeah, it's not called triggered. But when I'm trying to get my point across, it's called triggered. Is it double
No,
standards
when you're repeating yourself and stuttering
I'm trying to
like
work
a badger while eating your microphone, like you're doing now. It's called rumpusing.
But I'm trying to talk, and you're all talking while I'm talking.
No, you're repeating yourself like a chick on methamphetamine.
Four of you right now are talking to me at the same time and trying to get a point across.
What's your point?
Yeah, I just want you to ask that one question, man. Just one coherent question, and then we'll address it. But you're going over and over and over again. Just ask one coherent question, man.
Force me through a section of questioning that suits you.
No,
you're already trying to tell me how to answer questions. You're trying to tell me how to answer my own questions.
No, at the moment,
we're saying stop eating your microphone and stuttering like a meth-headed female.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated this show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!